Quarterback Geno Smith talking about the matchup with his former team, the New York Jets, who are in the hunt for the playoffs in the AFC. They are 7-8 right now, and they can get in if they just win their last two games at the Seahawks, at the Dolphins, and just get one New England loss. And the Patriots play the Bills in Week 18, and they're not afraid of losing games at the moment, the New England Patriots. So suspect the Jets will get in if they can just run the slate and beat Geno this week. Now, Matthew Berry's not on the show today, and neither is Connor Rogers. Connor Rogers is in a dark room somewhere in the state of New Jersey, just rocking back and forth against a wall, worried that his New York Jets are only 1.5-point favorites against the Seahawks. But let's talk about that game, Lawrence. Jets at Seahawks. The total in that one is 42.5. Let's talk some start-sit questions across all these AFC games where teams do have playoff motivation. And so starting with the Jets, I think the two big questions here are Bam Knight and Tyler Conklin. Where do you sit on these guys?
Yeah, so Zonovan McKnight is a tricky one, especially with the last 2 weeks he hasn't looked great, right? And last week, Michael Carter got a little bit more involved in that passing game. So he's only got 3 targets in the past 3 games, so that's what you worry about. You didn't worry about it the first 3 weeks he came on because he was running the ball so well. So, Mike White coming back, we know Mike White loves to target the running backs. The question is going to be which running back is actually going to be getting those receptions. So, the better value might be for Michael Carter this week, to be honest. I don't know. I didn't see anything in the past 2 weeks to make me excited to we're talking championship week, dog.
Go down with Michael Carter? Yeah.
I can't go down with Zonovan Knight, and we're in the PPR world.
Yeah.
We're in the PPR world, and Zonovan McKnight ain't PPRing right now.
No.
So I don't know about that one.
I think the one thing with Zonovan Knight is that he was on the injury report all last week. He was banged up. I think that he should be healthier with an extended week break coming off the Thursday night game against Jacksonville. And it is a favorable matchup for every Jet against the Seattle defense, which is certainly a bottom 10 defense in the league. What about Tyler Conklin? It's funny, all these Jets guys, Garrett Wilson would have been on this list if it was Zach Wilson at quarterback still, but you're starting Garrett Wilson with Mike White.
We would have had to talk about Garrett Wilson if Zach Wilson was still in the game. Tyler Conklin here, this one is wild, right? Double-digit target share in 5 of the last 6 games. Seattle gives us the most receiving yards to tight ends this whole season. That's all fine and great. But just a game or two ago, C.J. Uzoma caught 2 touchdown passes. why we ain't talking about him? That's even though that was his only 2 catches, he still did it. Tyler Conklin, this would be just like most other tight ends. It's a shot in the dark play right here, but you feel better about it knowing those numbers about Seattle's defense against tight ends.
Yep, and Seattle's star safety, Ryan Neal, he hasn't practiced the past 2 days. If it's not Ryan Neal, then it's going to be Tease Tabor, which isn't ideal, but is ideal for Jets.
He's actually a former cornerback.
Yeah.
Tease Tabor is, yeah.
So not ideal, not what you want if you're a Seahawks fan there. Let's talk about the Seahawks now. Let's talk about Geno Smith, who's been QB7 on the season in fantasy. Started the season off incredibly well. Has kind of tailed off the past couple of months, but it hasn't showed up so much in the stat sheet. He's been getting an incredible amount of dropped interceptions, and it kind of finally reared its head against Kansas City where he didn't have a good game. Now goes up against his former team, but his former team's got a pretty good pass defense. So are you comfortable starting Geno Smith?
So I have him outside of my top 12 quarterbacks, so that would tell you no. But I haven't, got him so far away from the top 12 to where it's just completely, disrespectful. But you also have to respect the Jets defense, who's giving up the 10th fewest fantasy points per game to quarterbacks. So you got to know that. You got to know Sauce Gardner over there lurking. You got to know that DJ Reed is on you, right? So, I wouldn't say start him, but I wouldn't write him off.
Yeah.
I wouldn't write him off.
Yep. And what about Kenneth Walker, who has had a weird past 6 weeks where he hasn't been that efficient on the ground, and then all of a sudden got right in a big way against the Chiefs. Didn't get in the end zone, but did top 100 rushing yards. And I think more to the point, looked like Kenneth Walker, looked healthy, had a lot of burst. He was the only thing really going right for that Seattle offense.
Yeah, and I think this is what's going to, I would rather see, if I'm the Seahawks, I'm like, let's see if we get this running game going first. Give Geno something to work with. Let's not just go. Now, we know Geno's thrown it at least 40 times in each of the last 2 games, but we don't really want to do that. Kenneth Walker last week tied his career high in rush attempts, 26. And if that's happening as a running back, that means something's going good if you're able to do that. That's what you want to be able to do versus the Jets defense. Pound the Jets defense, get effective running. It's going to be tough because they give up the 10th fewest points to running backs, but try to make the game, try to go through the run game and then see what happens, Geno, you know what I'm saying? So I feel decent about him. Got him at RB15 this week.
Yeah, I think the good thing with Kenneth Walker is that, look, the Seahawks were losing that entire game against the Chiefs. They didn't have game script in their favor, and he still got 26 carries.
Right.
So they're going to establish the run. I would expect that he should see a lot of usage against the Jets. Just lastly on this game, it's been an interesting betting market the whole season, the comeback player of the year, Lawrence. And Geno Smith has been the favorite for a long time. Until now. Now he's only the joint favorite with Saquon Barkley. They're both plus 175. To be honest, I think they're both good bets at plus 175.
Yeah.
Just as I don't believe in Christian McCaffrey or Jared Goff or Derrick Henry winning this award. I think Saquon should be the favorite just because the Giants are minus 1,000 to make the playoffs and they can just beat the Colts this week and they're in. Whereas Geno and the Seahawks are plus 350. And if you're stacking up 2 candidates that are pretty close and one's in the playoffs and one is out, then I think voters will go with Saquon. But who's comeback player of the year to you?
This bias, Saquon, one of my favorite players. I'm gonna go Saquon. However, what if Saquon and Geno both have good games? Like Geno they done wrote him off again. They done wrote him off the past month or so. What if he come out here versus this good Jets defense, because they still got an outside shot at the playoffs in the NFC, right? So, what if he comes out and they both have a good game and his is versus that Jets defense, whereas the Saquon is going against the Colts, then who will be the favorite come Monday?
Yeah, I think if he beats the Jets just with all the the narrative dam will break. If Geno Smith, to cap off this season, beats the team that drafted him, that got rid of him initially, if he goes and beats them with their pass defense, then I think he'll probably be the favorite. But they're underdogs in that game, and the Giants are 6-point favorites against the Colts, so I think that Saquon should be the favorite. I think he should be more like minus 110 and Geno plus 140, but I think they're both good bets. Lots of bets, Lawrence, to be found in Bills at Bengals, the Monday night games. Bills -1. Total is 49.5, one of the highest totals on the board. Let's start with the Buffalo guys and start with their running backs, which have been a mess all season. What are you doing with Devin Singletary and James Cook?
Devin Singletary and James Cook, I'm hoping I don't have to play either one of them. I actually personally do. I am starting James Cook in a fantasy championship this weekend, right? It worked out for me last week. He got the touchdown, so that helped out. But it's like you see the over-under here at 49.5, and one of them going to score, right? But you don't know which one it's going to be. It's literally a 50-50 timeshare on a team that doesn't really emphasize running the football like that. Prior to week 16, Devin Singletary had 3 straight games under 55 rushing yards. So that's in Cincinnati's defense giving up the 4th fewest rushing yards per game to running back since week 10. So it's not, so take the roles out of it, right? This is a tough defense to run against no matter who you are.
Yep, no, I'm with you there. And what do you think about Gabe Davis, who's given fantasy managers heartache all season, did get in the end zone, but is very much the ultimate kind of boom or bust guy?
Yeah, it's been, for this season, it's been more bust with a little bit of boom. Sprinkle a little bit of boom in there.
Boom sprinkling.
You know what I'm saying? This week I got him at wide receiver 33, right? Why do I have him at wide receiver 33? Because that's kind of, he been hovering around that 25 to 30-ish range, He has had 6+ targets in 3 of his last 4 games, but when you're thinking about I don't know, the supposed wide receiver 2 for the Buffalo Bills connected to Josh Allen. We bragging about 6 targets.
Yeah.
Like, I don't, even when the matchup is good, I remember, it was about 4 or 5 games ago, he caught the touchdown, but still didn't score double-digit fantasy points like Zeke did last night. So that could happen. But then 3 catches for 155 and 2 touchdowns could happen, but it haven't happened in a while. So I'm shying away from him, even though this looks to be a very fantasy-rich game. Isaiah McKenzie could come out the woodwork like he has been. Like, he's just as much as boom or bust as Gabe Davis. I'll be looking more so towards Dawson Knox in this situation. He's had 40 receiving yards in 2 of the past 3 games, 7+ targets in 2 of the past 3 games. So, look, we just said Gabe Davis, 6+ targets, right? Dawson Knox, 7+ targets. So, I like Dalton Schultz, too, and he scored in 3 straight games.
Yep. I think that relative to position, it's weird to say, but Dawson Knox is kind of the better option than Gabe Davis at this point. Let's talk about the Bengals now. So, obviously, you're starting Burrow, Chase, Higgins, Mixon, but what are you doing with Tyler Boyd and Hayden Hurst?
Well, Tyler Boyd, he's been, he's become like the poor man's Gabe Davis. When he used to pop out, every 3-4 weeks with 100 yards, now he's just not doing that at all. Under 40 reception yards in 3 of his last 4 healthy games. Hayden Hurst, we'll have to see what he's like. Hasn't played in a game since week 12, but he did have 7+ targets in 5 of his 12 games. Again, I don't really see much difference between him and, besides Joe Burrow in the spread. That's the difference I see between Hayden Hurst and a guy like Tyler Conklin.
Yep, that makes sense. All right, let's go to Broncos, Chiefs. Tumultuous week for the Broncos, letting go of Nathaniel Hackett. But the good news is they get a really easy matchup now against the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. That's the perfect get-right spot for the Denver Broncos. 12.5-point dogs. The total there is 45. Let's start with the Broncos. Latavius Murray, the superstar of this offense. You comfortable starting him against the Chiefs defense that gave up plenty of yards to Kenneth Walker?
I would say no. See, the Kansas City the Seattle Seahawks, they kind of hung around there in that game. I don't know that's what the Broncos will be doing. Now, if they do that, then you could probably chalk up Latavius Murray for a touchdown. And I know he just recently went for 130 yards, but in the other 2 games out of the past 3 that he didn't even hit 35 yards rushing. So, no, I'm not feeling good about that. I see we got the over/under at 45 right here. That's the Chiefs going to be scoring all them points to hit that over right there. Yeah. So you could see him in a catch-up situation. So I'd go, I'd be feeling good about Jerry Jeudy, who's been coming on strong the past month. Yep.
What about Cortland Sutton, Judy's partner in crime? Cortland Sutton has 1 touchdown on the season. Hasn't really worked out for Cortland Sutton. I think most people probably expected that he would be the guy in Denver that you wanted over Jerry Jeudy, but it's not working out that way.
Yeah, not working out that way, and it ain't going to work out for you in fantasy this weekend either. He's got 60 receiving yards in 4 straight of his healthy games. Long ago with 7 targets in those. However, like you said, not getting the touchdowns, not getting the really big volume that you like to see out of a number 1 receiver. That's going to Jerry Jeudy. The differences between guys like Cortland Sutton and guys he wants to be, like a CeeDee Lamb, is you could go out there, not score a touchdown, and still rack up your points. That's not the case here for Cortland Sutton. But, give me a guy, again, I'll stick with the tight ends here. I like Dolchich in if they're having to play some catch-up.
Yep. Okay, let's go to the Kansas City side of the ball. Now, a lot more guys you're comfortable starting here. Obviously, Mahomes, Kelsey, they speak for themselves. But the running backs, McKinnon and Pacheco, comfortable starting both of those guys?
Yeah, 100%. Why mess with the hot potato right here? Instead of the cold eggs. Sorry, you know what I'm saying. We want the hot potatoes, not the cold eggs. You know what I'm saying.
I don't know where you're going here.
Jared McKinnon has been a fantasy playoff hero, dog. Like 6 total touchdowns in the last 4 games, 5 receiving touchdowns, 1 rushes. Been playing 57% of the snaps in 2 of the past 3 games. Is well enough in this offense to continue to be started. I got him and Pacheco both inside my top 20 running backs, and both should be able to get a chance to get in that end zone.
Yep. Just as we drew it up preseason, Jerick McKinnon is the guy who is leading teams to fantasy glory, not Jonathan Taylor. Let's talk about JuJu Smith-Schuster. He's been up and down all season, goes through stretches where it looks like he's emerging as, I think, the guy everyone wanted him to be before the season, where he's looking like that early Pittsburgh JuJu. Yeah. And he's shown signs of life, but you're comfortable starting him against outside of the debacle on Christmas, what's been a pretty good Broncos pass defense.
I'm not comfortable starting him, but I wouldn't, you might be in a situation where you can't bench him. We still don't know the statuses of guys like Tyler Lockett, Deebo Samuel. So JuJu Smith-Schuster looking at you on your bench like, hey, you gonna put me in, man? You gonna put me? Be like, yeah, JuJu, get in my lineup, man. So, but under 7 fantasy points in 4 of the last 6 games, but he's had 70 receiving yards in 2 of the past 3. Like you said, that's that up and down. You just have to. You gotta be real with yourself. Don't have no crazy expectations, because Travis Kelce, he's still that guy.
Yeah, some kind of little shades of Kyle Pitts in JuJu Smith-Schuster, where you feel like you kind of should start him, but you don't feel good about starting him. Yeah. But he is just there staring at you from your bench, as you terrifyingly outlined there with that little impersonation. Let's talk about Dolphins, Pats. The Dolphins are 2.5-point dogs in New England. Looks like it's going to be the Teddy Bridgewater show. There's a lot going on in this game. So Tua's been officially ruled out, so it will be Teddy. The total is 41. I don't think this really changes that much for the Dolphins. I think it's largely going to be the same operation. Tyreek and Jalen Waddle, they start themselves. Teddy Bridgewater as well, I think, might be a viable streamer. But it's the sneaky thing with this game. Like, Tua is obviously, he's the big story. But at the same time, right now the Patriots, half their secondary is injured. They've got guys banged up, did not practice the past couple of days, and this is the one team in the league where you need your cornerbacks against Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. So I think there's going to be higher scoring than people expect. But firstly, what do you think about Teddy Bridgewater as a streaming option?
I like him a lot as a streaming option. He's done relatively well in the times that he's played this year. 18 fantasy points in 3 quarters versus the Vikings. In that game, he threw for 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, over 325 yards in that game. So, he'll have all his guys. So it's gonna look different. The style is different, but him and Tua, it's just gonna look different. But not them receivers gonna look the same. So all he's gonna have to do is get them the ball. And like you say, banged up secondary, this is the last team you want to have any type of second. You don't even want to mention any secondary issue when you talking about facing Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. I had Tua in a couple of leagues, so I'm going out there and I'm starting Teddy, because it's slim pickings. I didn't pick up Josh Dobbs in time on the waiver wire to throw him in my lineup. So Teddy B, let's get it.
All right. I think the difficult decision with the Dolphins, and it has been for the past couple of months, is Jeff Wilson or Raheem Mostert. Are you comfortable starting either of these guys against the Pats?
Comfortable? Nah. Again, no, I'm not. Now, the Patriots defense, look, little bit overrated at this point, especially in the run game. These two here, it's kind of like the situation that we got going on in Buffalo with the running backs. I would get a slight lean to Raheem Mostert. Jeff Wilson still trying to come back from that injury. Raheem Mostert did put the ball on the ground last week. That pretty much, it cost them. But I would give a slight lean to him, because recently he's been getting the larger snap share. He's been getting more of the touches, but not a running team. This is a situation where, you kind of hoping for the touchdown, which Jeff Wilson got last week, but No, I'm not comfortable. Or you're hoping for the Raheem Mostert breakaway run. You get that, you good to go for the whole game.
I wasn't going to bring up the Raheem Mostert fumble because, he came on the podcast and is a friend of the show, but that's fine if you want to throw Raheem.
Raheem know we got to keep it 100, man.
Yeah, and I think he is the more explosive option. Like we saw what he did against Buffalo where he put on his Marshawn Lynch costume for that ridiculous run down the right sideline. So I think that he probably has the more upside, but Jeff Wilson might be the guy more likely to get you a touchdown. Let's talk about the Patriots pass game because we have to. It's a complete mess.
Why do we have to?
Well, I mean, they play football and we're
they
kind
pass
of a fantasy
the ball
football show.
Good.
Yeah, they don't. They're a complete disaster at the moment between scheme, between quarterback, between, I think, talent at the position now. But Jacoby Myers, any interest in starting Jacoby Myers against a Miami secondary that's been a little bit hit or miss?
Yeah, the Miami defense will get up, right? Now, I'll say this. Yeah, give me Jacoby Myers. If Mac Jones gonna throw this play right here, if he gonna do all this
is sustainable.
Yeah, look at Matt Jones. Look at that mobility.
Wow. Look at that.
You know what I'm saying? Deflection, boom, just press.
That,
that's how they drew it up right there. That's how he drew it up.
Perfect. Yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen.
Hey, so look, if that happens, and look, he had 83 receiving yards with that. No, I don't want Jacoby Myers, man. Like, come on. Hey, has Jacoby Myers been on this show?
He has not been on this show.
I can't have you in my lineup, dog. I can't. Nah.
If you want to come on the show, Jacoby, we'd love to.
If you play with a different quarterback, then maybe I mess with you. But nah, I'm good.
Okay. Well, the necessary segue out of the Patriots pass game is to now talk about the Houston Texans, who play the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, don't really know what the hell's going on with this game. To be honest, Doug Peterson says that you play all your guys to win, which is in direct contrast to what he has done previously in these spots in meaningless games. I would expect that we're going to see some of the Jags, but perhaps not for the entire game. And I expect it's going to be a pretty vanilla playbook as well. So what are you doing with the big Jags guys? With Trevor Lawrence, with Christian Kirk, with Zay Jones?
Man, especially with Christian Kirk, you gotta, if you wanting to start him, you just gotta go out there and start him. I will say this, Jay, this is a younger team, so maybe Doug Peterson might be telling the truth this time. He had those experienced Eagles teams in the past. He got a young team right here on the verge of getting in the playoffs, so maybe he just want to keep them fresh, keep the offense tight, keep things going. Trevor Lawrence, 20-plus fantasy points in 4 of his last 6 games. You don't really want to mess that up. I actually got him at number 5 this week, Trevor Lawrence, because they're going up against the Texans. 3 or more touchdown passes in 3 of the last 5 games, and they got the Texans. Yeah, that's why this is the highest I've ever had Trevor Lawrence ranked this season.
Yeah, I think it's just a difficult one to sift through. I don't trust Doug Peterson with this kind of stuff, and would expect that there might be some curveballs. So definitely pay attention to the reporting as we get closer to game time. With the Texans, any interest in Brandon Cooks, who had 9 targets against the Tennessee Titans?
Show me what you got. I'll show you what I'm working with. Right? I would probably start Brandon Cooks over JuJu. I'll use JuJu as an example. Since we talked about him, just because he's the guy. 9 targets in his first game back, but we want to see those targets turn into catches and yards and maybe a touchdown. Come on, Davis Mills, make it happen, man.
Yeah, I don't think you want to go down with Brandon Cooks in championship week if you can avoid it. Let's talk about the blockbuster, the game of the week on Sunday Night Football on NBC and Peacock. It's Steelers-Ravens. It's a blockbuster. It's Kenny Pickett. It's Tyler Huntley. The line is Steelers plus 2.5. I think the Steelers win this game. The total is 35 flat. Fantasy-wise, I think the questions on Pittsburgh are mainly around Pat Freiermuth and George Pickens. What are you doing with these guys?
Yeah, so like one, not the other. Like Pat Freiermuth here, he's had 60 receiving yards in 3 of his last 5. One of his two touchdowns this season came against Baltimore just a couple of weeks ago in Week 14. He's built some chemistry. His chemistry with Kenny Pickett is better than Kenny Pickett's chemistry with George Pickens. Now, you know how George Pickens do. He gonna make that one catch that's gonna have us like, damn, he top 5. You know what I'm saying? He gonna make that one catch, but is that catch gonna be a touchdown? You know, what's it gonna be? Like, here we go. Perfect. Man, come on, dog. I might have to just take back what I just said right now just from reviewing this.
Odell Pickens Jr. Yeah, he's kind of got some Gabe Davis about him, where he's just going to rely on the big play. He's not going to have 10 receptions in a game. It's just not going to happen. Another guy who's kind of reliant on the big play for fantasy value is J.K. Dobbins for Baltimore, who had a massive game against the Steelers, but is in a true timeshare with Gus Edwards.
Yeah, now, talk about the relying on the big play. He's actually going to be relying on the touchdown, you know, because now the good thing is he had 120 rushing yards 2 of his last 3 games. That's cool. But when he didn't do that last week, he had 59 rushing yards. When there's no touchdown or no, receiving work to go with that, you left with pretty much a dud game. Like, what's that? That's 5.9 points. Like, you don't want that. Under 45% of the snaps in every game since returning from that injury. So he's been efficient. He's had to be efficient in getting his numbers. He's got 0 targets, 0 in 4 of his last 5 games.
The limpiest explosive run you'll ever see. Yeah. Dragging himself.
And, to his credit, you know what I'm saying? Even he said, he came out on a tweet and was like, yo, I'm going to get back right. I'm going to get back healthy. I will get my speed back. We don't know when that's going to come, but, he's acknowledged that he not, at 100% yet, So then the Pittsburgh defense, too. They've only allowed 2 rushing TDs over the past 7 games. So he needs the TD. They're not allowing him. It's going to be tough sledding. It could get done, but it's going to be tough.
Yep. All right, we're going to go to break. When we come back, we'll break down the biggest matchups in the NFC that have playoff implications.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and RotoWorld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from RotoWorld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.